race and just making us feel like we're all alive. It's just as practical as some other people's views. What do you think, James?
Oh, absolutely. And here's the thing. We could be a science project from an alien's first grader, and, now he's in third grade, and we're sitting up in their attic somewhere, and thank God they haven't decided to throw it out in the garbage yet. So, these are all possibilities. It's endless. You mean like the in the sentence said there, you can tell your brain and not thinking about these things. Really. I do got to ask Irena a question. That truck driver that came up to your car, do you think that he may have been a man in black or a covert military that was running, making sure nobody was taking pictures of this craft or something?
How about possessed?
Yeah, or even that.
I don't know, because at first, I kept thinking that he was a crazy person or something. But then after a while, it occurred to me that we pointed at the thing each time, and he turned in the opposite direction. And he turned just in the exact opposite direction. And, if you point at something and somebody can't see it, well, they look in the direction you're pointing at. They don't look in the opposite direction. And so I think he knew, what we were looking at. He just looked in the opposite direction and said he didn't see anything, which should have given me a clue, especially when he repeated it, that something was wrong. It wasn't just sort of an accident where he couldn't see it. It was, he knew where it was, or he couldn't point his head in the opposite direction. And so it was something, it wasn't just an accident that somebody just came and couldn't see it. He was deliberately, giving us misinformation and, saying, and then he insinuated I was crazy too. He pointed to his head, which I interpreted as a crazy sign. And so I thought this was some kind of a setup or something, because if he couldn't see it, he would look in that direction. He wouldn't look in the opposite direction, which should give me a clue that it was like a setup or something, but I don't really know.
Now, I got to ask you a question. Have you ever felt that you've been abducted yourself?
Well, the very first thing with my sister and I, we'd never heard of UFOs or aliens or anything else. We were just little kids, and we had one radio and listened to, music and things like that. But I kind of wondered if there was some kind of a mental effect then, because we both woke up at the same time. We saw this thing in the room, and then we both became terrified at the same time. And it seemed like there might have been some kind of mental control or something going on. And we both woke up, and this thing was in our room, but neither of us had any idea how it got there. And it made me wonder if something else, we were so terrified later that you couldn't believe it. It was just something we never forgot at all, and neither did our family, actually. But I wondered if something else was going on there. And with the thing in Massachusetts, we might have had missing time, but neither of us remember an abduction or anything like that.
Well, you know what? People don't, because, my strange encounter with a bright light going through the desert of New Mexico in the early 70s, it was enough where, I didn't even associate anything till, the last year or so when I started putting pieces together. You kind of get maybe blocked out, or they block things out. But I was in a situation where I was driving, and all of a sudden, all around the car, it got bright. At a light, it was so bright it hurt my eyes. But my wife at the time, and I use the word at the time, was sitting next to me freaking out because inside the car, now this is late at night, inside of the car was bright just as much as outside. It really hurt your eyes. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I was in the military. It has to be a police helicopter, because I was speeding. I have to admit that. I had a GTO, and I wanted to go. And I did the honorable thing. I pulled off the side of the road. I get out of the car, and I don't hear a single sound. Nothing. It's like nothing exists. Like somebody put fingers in my ears, and I didn't hear anything. And the light was so intense, it hurt my eyes. I tried to look up at it, didn't see anything except the bright light. I didn't hear a helicopter noise, and poof, it was instantly gone. So, I mean, you know, I think what happens is when people have been abducted or whatever, a lot of people, they whatever they do, they expunge that out of your brain. And a lot of people maybe never even realize it the whole time they live. Where others are more lucky or maybe not lucky, they start remembering things. That's the bad part.
Well, like eventually we reported it to people, including Bud Hopkins, and he I think Calvin mentioned Debbie Jordan or somebody. He and Debbie Jordan interviewed my sister, and then he tried to hypnotize me, but I just didn't hypnotize at all. And so he wanted a timetable, and there might have been missing time. But I just don't hypnotize, and nothing came to either one of us, so we don't know.
Yeah, it's scary. How about when you know, later years and stuff, when you had some major surgery, did they ever find anything interesting in your body when they were, undoubtedly they did MRIs and all that stuff before the surgery. Did anything ever show up out of curiosity?
No. I mean, they just looked at my spine. They didn't look at anything else. So, no, nobody said anything at all. I didn't ask.
Yeah. Well, I also want to say that I felt really bad that you had to go for the surgery, and it looks like you're recovering really well. So, I mean, that is really good for you.
Oh, I'm really happy about it because people are bedridden for life, and I'm just up and about and turning into a normal person again. It was really bad surgery, but and it was sort of voluntary. They said I'd live the same lifespan either way, but I was afraid I'd wind up in a wheelchair or something, so I had the surgery.
Yeah, good move. And we're down to just a few minutes. Again, what books do you have out there that you wrote, and where can they find them? And do you have a website also that you can share with us?
Yes, I do. My website is irenascott.com, and if somebody just puts in Irena Scott, my website should pop up. And I list the books there, and they're easy to find because I have books listed, and if they just click on the book, it goes right to Amazon.com. And I have the same publisher as Calvin, a very good publisher. My books are UFOs Today was the first one, and it's just a chronological book about UFOs starting at the very beginning. It's UFOs Today, 70 Years of Lies, Misinformation, and Government Cover-Up. And I talk about the government cover-up. The second book is Inside the Lightning Ball. And this is about the experiences my sister and I had, and it also includes experience of scientists who have come out of the closet and talked about UFOs. The most recent one is Sacred Corridors. Secrets, and the subtitle is Secrets Behind the Real Project Blue Book, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Roswell, Battelle, Memory Medal, Dr. J. Allen Hynek, and UFO Cover-Ups. And this is because I worked for several important places where UFO study took place, such as the Defense Intelligence Agency, the DIA, and Battelle Memorial Institute, which did an intensive study of UFOs. And I've been at Wright-Patterson on the base several times, and so I wrote about what I found out about that, and people I interviewed, and I had documents and photographs of different places and things.
So I got to ask you a question. Irena. What do you think is going on with these abductions and stuff like that? Like I said, I had Whitney on Stryber last night, and he's kind of changed a little bit about his view on the abductions and what's going on. He feels that now, in the last couple years, that they are trying to communicate with him or with people in subtle ways. But the problem is he feels that they're so far advanced compared to us that we don't even realize when they're trying to communicate. But he's starting to realize that they're trying to communicate with him, and subtle things are coming out where he's realizing it. What do you think is going on?
Well, I've been studying this for quite a while. I basically don't have any idea whatsoever. What they're doing is they're not... I mean, our scientists go and study things scientifically, and they have a basis of science of you have to have controlled experiments. And they assume that, like, everything can be controlled. Well, obviously, if we're not the most intelligent life in the universe, if we're kind of like ants, we're not going to be able to control our experiments. And so science sort of ignores UFOs because you can't control them and put them in the lab and do an experiment. And so, it's like scientists say, well, they don't exist. Well, that's not very logical.
Now, I do feel they very much exist. And I tell you what, like Timothy Collin, for example, who had an implant removed by the late Dr. Roger Lear. James, as me and you talked about, you can hear, like even with Terry Lovelace, you can hear the stress in them that they can't go to bed at night. They can't sleep. They're worried. A lot of the people pack guns by their bed because they're scared about being abducted again. So I think whatever is going on, it's doing a lot of emotional damage to somebody who's been abducted for the rest of their life.
Oh, definitely. The post-traumatic stress, you can hear it and feel it in their voices, and not just Timothy. Most of them, there's a pattern there, definitely. And some of them even have handguns and flashlights by their bed.
Yeah. How about you? We only got a minute left, Irena. Are you worried about being abducted or anything?
I don't know. I can't sleep. I have a big problem not sleeping, and I have a camera by my bed. But I don't feel a gun would help anyway, but, if anything happened, I'd have a video camera. And I have a night vision video camera by my bed. But, it's one I'd have to turn on myself. It's not one that, like a night vision trail camera or anything like that. So, yes, I have trouble sleeping, and I don't know if that has anything to do with UFOs or not.
Well, you've investigated a lot, so maybe emotionally deep down it's in your brain, and you hear about all these abductions, like with Calvin Parker and everybody else. It concerns me because there's a lot more abductions going on than people realize, and there's a lot more implants going on than people realize. We're being visited more than ever. September usually is a month that UFOs start dropping off. They're not dropping off. Irena, I really enjoyed having you back on the show. Again, now, can they find your books on Amazon?
Look under IrenaScott.com and I'll list them. It's UFOs Today, Sacred Quarters, and Inside the Lightning Ball are three of them. And I wrote an afterword for Calvin's book, too, which I was very honored that they let me help investigate his experience. Oh, yeah, and he has a big one. Well, Irena, I got to let you go. Hey, you have a great weekend. And if anything breaks in UFO news, you know how to get a hold of me. Please do. Uh-huh. Well, thank you very much. I was very happy to be here and to talk to you again. Okay. Well, kid, you have a great weekend. You do, too. Okay. Thanks. Good night. Bye. Night. Bye. Well, what's that tell you? I think there's a lot of people seeing these creatures, these humanoids, these UFOs,
And you know what? The size of them, maybe they're scout ships, because they seem to vary between, you know, a